Well, good day, everybody. So we're back to a tracker update, which is kind of fun. We've been all very busy here in the last few days, as you know. We've had 4 boats turn up on the marina here at the V&A waterfront in Cape Town, and it's been a hectic 24 hours. We had 3 in 24 hours, so sleep was a scarce commodity. In fact, the night before, I got a couple of hours, but Rob got nothing, and others were up all night as well because they were coming in thick and fast, and we're getting press releases out, and it just wasn't worth going to sleep. We got a little bit last night, some of us. I got 3 hours this morning, which is a lot better, but we're still short. The good news is we don't have any boats tomorrow. Or Monday, or possibly even Tuesday. And when we do get boats, it's quite likely to be Outlaw, which will be pretty gutsy call. And their whole game plan may actually be working out very well, because as you'll see from the weather shortly, it's pretty much going to play into their hands in the next few days, and that's the most critical with that track. So that will be very interesting. The other thing, we've been having a debate this evening. Whether they're actually Cape fur seals or Cape sea lions on the marina here in Cape Town, because last night Marie Taberley sadly got bitten quite a nasty bite from a Cape fur seal or a Cape sea lion. It was dark, and anyway, it was a sad situation. Had to go to hospital and so on. Not a major one, but it wasn't a good one either. So there's a lot of seals here. I've been dealing with fur seals and sea lions for 20 years, going into the subantarctics, and you can actually get deceived quite easily. In fact, when I was on the marina, when we launched Mini Mona, our little rib, I was walked around looking at the engine. Next minute, I heard this sea lion. So, oh, cheapers! I forgot they were right there. So, and when you're in Antarctica, sometimes you be hopping over rocks and just about sit on one by accident. So anyway, she'll be okay, and that was all kind of good. Great to see Maiden come in. A huge amount of wind here in Cape Town the last 36 hours, and I mean huge. We're getting 60 knots on the marina. All our banners, all our Ocean Globe banners, got blown apart, flying up into the 5-star hotel next door, but we managed to recover them all. It's really been hooting. So we made the decision, in the case of Translated coming in last night, it wasn't safe to go out. So, and we used the yacht club, the Royal Cape Yacht Club big rib, 9-metre rib, and everything's been shut down. There was no sailing today. They weren't keen to use the rib. We didn't want to increase risk anywhere, so we didn't see Translated in on the line at 3 o'clock this morning, which you probably know about, and we made the decision again today with Maiden to do the same. And if you were following the tracker, you would have seen that it was quite a struggle for them to make it to the line and then get themselves organised after that fact to get in. And there was a little sad story there. They were holding second place, provisional second place for IRC, but the clock was ticking, and a few of us were watching that. But sadly, it rolled over. They missed that slot by about 25 minutes or something. They didn't quite make it to the line quick enough, and now they're down to third place provisional IRC rating for this first leg. So that was all pretty exciting, and certainly when Penjuic arrived, there's a huge wow factor there. It was really hooting. Like, the wind was kicking in. We had both ribs out there, and we decided to stick by the lee of the land and wait until she got a bit closer. But you could see her coming in with the clear horizon behind us, and I kid you not, there's the mast standing vertical, and a couple of times she got laid over like this, pretty much flat. And we saw that in the distance, silhouette against the horizon. And we thought, this is too good to not to miss. So we decided to get on out there and get some of the footage, which was great. But sadly, we drowned a bit of gear. Rob, who's filming for the documentary, drowned his gimbal, so we got to get another one on Monday. And we lost it. If you're following it, we lost it because of the water that was coming over. It blew the iPhone and a few other things, but it was certainly very exciting, to say the least. Ada got some great photos, all that sort of stuff. It was a very dramatic arrival. All the team on Penjuic, and with Marie helming, and then all the others. It was a great sight, and the backdrop of Table Mountain with the big tablecloth over the mountain, the clouds rolling out, was fantastic. So, and the other impression that we have is one of huge emotion when you look at what's going on the marina when they get in. the African dances and everything, sort of, and the background sort of drum music and the singing and everything. It just hyped it up. It really was quite incredible to see the emotion that was just going on. It was electric, in the sort of, I don't know how, it's pretty difficult to describe, but the entrance certainly very happy to be here because it was a real tough, hard yards towards the end. But overall, I think everyone's got a different perspective on how long this first leg is. The weather's really cut it up a bit. Boats are taking longer. Every boat is taking much longer than they even thought to get here. And historically, I've got to say, yes, the whole fleet's going slower than we ever expected. So that's why the stay over here is compressing, and that's unfortunate because the V&A waterfront is fantastic. The people of Cape Town and all the rest of there's great things to see and do, and everyone's going to have short holidays instead of longer ones, working on boats and so on, recovering. The translated story, fantastic, with Marco and all the other, sort of teams. It's just great. The vibe here is fantastic. So, and it'll get better. We've got some interesting events happening as we go into the next phase of briefings and getting ready for departure. So, all in all, it's a pretty good start to what's going on. Anyway, you're here to see the tracker. I'm happy to give it to you, and I've had a look before. I've spent 10 minutes going over everything because we've just been focusing on the lead boats, just looking at ETAs. We haven't really been doing a lot at the back end of the fleet. Just keep an eye on them, take their calls. We got a call from the Spirit of Key today, and that'll be on SoundCloud sometime very soon. So, there's some other calls as well. So anyway, let's get into the tracker, and I'll try and explain what's going on and why I think Outlaw may be the very first boat to come in. I'm not actually seeing any comments there. I'm wondering if this is working. So maybe I better just have a look to see if someone at least logs in. There's no one logging in. Why is no one logging in? Oh, no, people are watching. I can see it. But no one's logging in. Maybe I've got something turned off here. Someone give me a comment, then I know it's working. It says there's 57 people there and 15 likes already. Can't be. I don't know whether I'm reading that right or not. Yep, there's one. Thanks, Alan. At least I know someone's there. Cool. All right, I'll go over to the tracker now because when I'm on the tracker, I can't see what's going on with the BeLive system that we're using. So here we all are. We can all fit on the one page now. Godspeed up the back. Outlaw out to the east, Explorer way behind to the west, and then there's a middle fleet. Rika's sitting in a calm now, but she's still moving, showing 6 knots, but that was at 6 o'clock. So at least she's still going. Galliana down south and so on. So we will, and we've got the basis of a South Atlantic high here. That's pretty obvious. And in fact, before we go there, we'll have a quick static look at the weather. You can see there's still nothing, sort of really obvious here, other than what we got. We've got a little high forming over to the west. We've got a low pressure system here down underneath the fleet, and we've got a high pressure system over to the right here that's actually moving away now. So that's really history, but it's creating some headwinds here for the Spirit of Quip. If that stays there, and it won't. It's going to move away, and then you've got this high here as well. So once again, 4 different systems creating the weather for the fleet, which is, it's sort of interesting and not necessarily traditional. But nonetheless, that's what there is, and they've got to deal with it. So Godspeed, kicking along quite well, 6 knots, 97-mile day, and just still in the trades and still heading due south. So that's working for them. And then I'm going to leave Outlaw till a bit further down the track. Explorer sitting on the back of this low pressure system below them, and that should last them for a while. They're doing 7 knots. I was saying to someone the other day, you'd think with that you might be doing 7.5, but again, all's good. They're looking after the boat. They've got a long way to go. So if they're not pushing really hard, I've got no problem with that. Everyone's doing looking at the event, the challenge, the best way they can and what they want to get out of it. Sterner, 7.5 knots. Met up with Sterner's father today. Rufus, the skipper, his father, called in. There's a few families now heading into Cape Town as well. So they're doing okay, and they've got a breeze. They'll hold that. White Shadow doing 8.6 knots. They've got some pressure. They know what they're doing. and Galliano with Secure doing 9 knots. They're just going for it now, flat stick, and they are actually making gains. They've got a 212-mile day, and I'd believe that. They're really making the most of these northwesterlies. They'd be surfing, they'd probably have 4 or 5 meter seas there, and they really know what they're doing. I know Tapio's not really happy where they are at the moment. He'd much rather be further south, but they had to bite the bullet and go for it. He didn't want to waste time and effort by going south there. So I would think that you'll still see him possibly start to angle down a bit more, but let's wait and see what happens. If we look at Neptune, I think she's turned too early because she's definitely making a distinct track, not actually trying to go down anywhere. I think White Shadow is making the effort to go down. I think you'll see that still. And Triana, they're just always going fast. Interesting situation there too, which is evolving, which may cause them some headaches in Cape Town. But probably anyway, we'll just see what's going on there. They're racing hard and fast, but there's some technical issues that might create some interesting situations in Cape Town. We're assessing a lot of different things. And L'Esprit de Quip is doing 7.4 knots, heading towards the east. And you can see here that if they were any further ahead, they'd get these headwinds, but they're right in the nice position there. So that's kind of good as well. I'm doing this overall fleet review because I think there's no real definition between a mid group and a tail end group. It's all just one group at the moment. And I think that's the easiest way to tackle it. I think everyone can see that pretty well. If I pop this up here, I think it's, oh yeah. So this middle group, we're not talking about Outlaw yet. So there we all are. And let's just see what I'll drop it back just to do the weather overall going forward in the next 2 days. So we'll go through 6 hours. So there's 6 hours. You can see Avrika's still in the center of that high. And depending on where she goes, I think she's going to slow down because it says 6 knots at the moment. If this is true, she'll be down to 3 knots and maybe 4 knots, something like that, just drifting along in these light weathers. Explorer should be fine. This is only 6 hours into it. Sterna's fine. White Shadow's fine. Neptune, I wouldn't turn so quick. I hope they start heading down. It's going to be the best thing. It always is. Triana in a really good spot. They got plenty of breeze. Same with Spirit Equip. They'll actually have northerlies. Cheapers. Every time I say Spirit Equip now, I'm worried about how I'm pronouncing it. I'm getting a real phobia about it. The Esprit de Quip or something like that. They're going to hit me when they see me and hear the stories. So, everything looks good. The 6 hours, Galliano with Secure going crazy with this wind, still doing 9 knots. And now here we go through in 24 hours. So that's near enough to 24 hours. Avrika will have some breeze by then. Stern is still rolling. White Shadow, everyone here is going fast. So in the first 24 hours, everyone's going fast. And I think even Explorer will have enough breeze to keep going. Just have a quick peek at Godspeed. Yep, they'll be heading out of the trades a little bit, so it might get a bit softer for them. I don't want to talk too much about Outlaw yet. I meant Godspeed up here, but I won't talk about Outlaw. I'm going to do a special one for them, and you'll see why I think they may be the next boat in. So we'll kick back up here. So that's day 2. That's day 1, rather. Now we're going to keep going into day 2 and see what happens. It's just more favourable bees for the middle bit. I think Explorer's going to park. Very obviously, you can see what's going on here. She's going to go slow for quite a few days there. Galliana should be right. This is the next day. She'll be in here somewhere. Might get a bit lighter, but everyone else got a good breeze. That's fine. And just push it forward a bit more. There we go through to 24 hours, and we're going into day 3 now. And then it's going to go quiet. So let's just go to the big picture for day 3. It's trying to form up a bit of a major center of a high here. Generally, you can see here this whole giant flow of a counterclockwise movement for a big high, because this center, these centers here are forming up. And so a few people are going to be into that. But you can see, once again, if you wonder why people come down to 40, imagine if you're just cruising down here. Look at this. Here's the highway again, straight along the bottom. And when you get to there, straight up there. That's why they always say, come down to 40. And it was interesting listening to Juicy on Spirit of Helsinki. Their weather routers were saying, oh, you could go 35, which is a bit risky, which is in the middle here where most of the fleet is. Or you could go down to 38.5 and it's a bit safer. But if you went to 40, look at that. It's nearly always the same case because you're in the roaring 40s. And all the wind along here is where you're going to get usually westerlies more often than not. So I keep reinforcing that. So when you all buy a boat and all go cruising and head down to Cape Town, you all go down to 40. But it gives an advantage at different times for sure. So yeah, that's 3 days out. And so back to real time there, bing. And even if you were down at 40 there, you've got all these northerlies, so it's beam reaching, and then you go, boom, you've got a problem. But if you're coming up here like that from the southwest, you're clear. Enough of that rubbish. Let's look at Outlaw. This is the big story for today. And it's really amazing because if we look at their historical track, they really have worked hard to get the whole concept together. Now, I'm quite certain that they wouldn't have made a decision to even investigate how to actually come through the South Atlantic High on the east of the course, because there are some specific things that you could do, but they certainly nailed it. They're actually doing it quite well. They're going with the flow, get out to the east, go down and keep sailing. And then there's often, if you can imagine this, depending on what's happened, but sometimes, even though you get the high going around counterclockwise, sometimes you either get a very light band of headwinds really close into the coast, or you can actually get a counter breeze. Sounds funny, but you can have the wind coming up here and it'll turn around, sort of like what you saw with that low pressure system that formed in here before. So you can actually get a following breeze. And so they're probably reading the guidebooks, reading the pilot books or whatever it is, and figure we better head to the coast, guys. Get over here and try and go the light headwinds when it gets happening. But the position they're in now is certainly, this is not looking good. It's getting, 28, 30 knots there, but it's all going to disappear. And then all of a sudden, everything gets perfect for sailing to Cape Town. Now, before we do this, I'll just point out a couple of things. First of all, they're doing 6 knots at the moment, and they've got only 565 nautical miles to go to the finish of the race, this leg in Cape Town. Now, if we look at the next closest boat, Lionel, doing 7.4 knots, but he's got 750 miles to go. So he's got to go 200 miles further than Outlaw. I'll leave L'Esprit Equip in the bottom there, bottom of the picture, and there's Outlaw, right? So as I work this weather forward, I'll try and describe what's going to happen. You know what L'Esprit Equip's going to do. They've got reasonable stuff, and it's reasonable bits, but there's nothing spectacularly exciting to push them along in really high speeds. So if you said L'Esprit, if you said with Outlaw 156 miles, if they did 100-mile days, they're going to be there in about 5 days, okay? And you look at Speed Equip, if they did with that kind, they've got 750 miles, they would have to do 150-mile days to get the same sort of traction in the distance there. So it's 500 and then another 250. Yeah, they got to do 150-mile days towards the finish, right? But Outlaw's only got to do 100-mile days towards the finish for the 5 days. So you can see straight away, Outlaw's looking pretty good. And then we haven't talked about the 32 hours that's actually going to be given to them as compensation. So that's the big bonus as well. And you compare that to the Spirit Equip, it's, they're looking good before you even look at the weather. Yeah, here goes. So we follow the weather through and you can see it's starting to lighten off. It's getting back to normal again. Now, as I've said many times, you can actually hold high quite well when you've got light breeze. So, and that's exactly what they got. This is 10 to 15 knots, perfect weather for sailing to windward in 1 meter seas and holding high. And not only that, this is a southerly now. It's not a southeasterly, because often this is a southeasterly right on the nose. When it's a southerly, you can hold port tack and you can just keep peeling down towards the coast to follow this, track like this. So for the next couple of days, they can act for the next, immediate future. I won't say a couple of days because you'll see what's going to happen. Let's go for a first day. Now look at that. It's actually become a southwesterly. right? And it's pretty easy to see what's going to happen. So in the first half of the day, so this is the weather they're going to get in 24 hours. The first half, they're going to get blown out this way a little bit on port tack, but they can still generally head in the right direction. By the end of the 24-hour period, the wind has swung right around and into the westerly quadrant as a southwesterly wind, and they can actually cruise their course around, and start heading further south. So they're not losing their easting. They can actually, one day out, they'll actually making really good time towards Cape Town. So that's pretty cool. So what's happening the next day? Not much. It's holding the same. See, it's either south or it's got a little bit of west in it, right? And so there we're coming into the second day. So that's 2 days of close to a free ride before it starts to swing a little bit of easting in it, right? But it's still mainly south, and that's going to give them a big kick because it's already the 23rd there. So that's 2 days. Now, 2 days, even if they're only doing 100-mile days, they're going to be about here, say, and they'll do more than 100-mile days. They won't have to tack back and forwards. They'll just hold port tack, and in 2 days' time, they're going to be about there. It's 240 miles. They'll easily do that, and that means they're actually only 300 miles from Cape Town, okay? And when you start, look at this. Here's the high up here. If I scan this out now, here's the high right up high. So they're in the southeastern quadrant of the high, and they're just going to reach down into Cape Town. This is crazy. This is like they dialed up their best wish, and that's exactly what they look like they're going to get. But how long is it going to last? So let's just play this out. So this is on the 23rd, 2 days out, and we'll keep going. And look at that breeze. It's a southwesterly. The southwesterly means you keep coming. Keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. So for the whole of the 24th, it's a southwesterly, but it's starting to get very light now. And again, let's just see what it is. But it's certainly not major headache material. This is probably 10 knots coming in from the south, and they'll still make steady progress on that in light seas and everything up. They'll have all their biggest genoas up and all that sort of stuff, and they'll still be making progress, but it just won't be fast. But that's not too bad because at least they're not wasting it by tacking into headwinds. Now, so this is now the 24th, coming into the end of the 24th. So by the end of the 24th, now they've got to earn their keep. But by the 24th, that's 3 days ahead, they will have easily made about nearly 400 miles, I reckon. That's only 130-mile day average for 3 days. So they're going to be down around here somewhere after 3 days. So there's Cape Town. They're going to be within 100, 150 miles, I reckon, on the third day. And I cannot see L'Esprit de Creek get that anywhere near that. So we'll carry on playing this weather through just so you can start dreaming and imagining what's going on. We're in the 25th. Come on, catch over. And it's just reasonable headwinds. That's going to be sort of 15, 20 knots, which is what they would have been thinking they're going to have and tack, dunk, all the way, and that's not the case. So I'm pretty confident if this weather forecast is right, and bearing in mind that the L'Esprit de Creek has to get across this no man's land here as well, I reckon the next boat in is going to be Outlaw. So that's my take on it. I won't give you an ETA, but I reckon it'll be in about 4 days. And that'll be very exciting because it'll really put the cat among the pigeons for 2027, which is the next edition of the Ocean Globe Race. And people are thinking, I can do that, yeah. And they'll all try it, and they'll go. Oops! Look at that! I popped that in there. I should have done that before. If I go that again, that's me. Yeah, that'll really create headaches then because they'll probably find in 2027 that everything else will go pear-shaped and they'll be stuck and it'll be a loser. So here we have Outlaw going out to the east, and we have Galliano with Secure and Tapio sticking to the traditional route, and it'll be interesting to see what gains he may make by going south, and I think you'll see him go a little bit further south. So anyway, one thing I wanted to do, I'm going to go back to the tracker first of all to press the right buttons to go through the leaderboard and talk about handicapping. So I hope you didn't have anything else to do tonight. Okay, open up the leaderboard. This is kind of interesting. So we'll forget about line honours. Everyone can see which boat's first, second, third, so on. We're going to go straight to IRC. and talk about what's going on. So translated 9 on an IRC corrected time, okay, finished the race in 45 days, 10 hours, 39 minutes and 38 seconds. That's here in the green, okay, and it's pretty clear that they're going to hold that position. So it's pretty clear that they've won this leg of the race, because generally the way it works, anyone on IRC handicapping is considered the winner. Line honours is a factor of money and boat size and all that sort of stuff. And I say that with respect to Spirit of Helsinki, because it also is a factor of how good the crew are and how quick they can keep the boat moving. But obviously, if you've got a 65-foot or a big boat, you're going to beat the Swan 51 or a Baltic 51 or something like that. There's no way they can keep up with it. So the bigger the boat, the more likely you may be to take line honours. But when you put in the handicapping factor, then you actually it's sailor's skill usually if the handicapping is fair and reasonable across the fleet. So that's cool for translated. Now, up until today, a few minutes before Maiden crossed the finish line, Maiden had been holding second place. And we were, as she was approaching the line, we were watching her projected corrected elapsed time here change and change and change, getting longer and longer, because she was just held up with those really strong gusts and bullets as she's approaching the line. So as it stands at the moment, this is still provisional, because it could change depending on what happens to Rihanna and this, that, and the other, but highly unlikely. But Maiden is now sitting in third on IRC, a provisional rating, 47 days, 20 hours and 3 minutes. So she is against Spirit of Helsinki. She's, 5 hours and a bit behind on ranking. Penjuic, on the other hand, down here at 48 and 22 hours. So, and that could change. So all this is provisional, but all very interesting. Now, Triana is still in there. Triana's sailing pretty well, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. And if we look at Outlaw now, Outlaw is currently sitting on 6 at 50 days and 12 hours. Now, that's not including the 32 hours compensation that she'll get for the efforts that she made to recover that lone mariner in his outboard up by Dakar many weeks ago. And I think even now, and I've got to work out how we do this, but even now, it's clear to see that if we put that time factor in there, Outlaw is ranking much higher than Triana, who's been sailing way above her pay grade and going really fast. So Outlaw's right up there and is actually technically sitting in fifth place on II handicapping. So and behind that, White Shadow looking pretty good, but I think you might see a time shuffle there between Triana and Outlaw. That's going to be kind of interesting. So that's all I need to do. I mean, if you want to get really excited, you could come down here and I could show you. Why can't I get down that far enough? I could show you. Oh, I see. I've got to change this here. That's it. I could show you Explorer. Explorer's coming in on at the very bottom of the scale for IRC. But anyway, great boat, great crew, having a great time. So got to keep them up there. All right, that's that. And then I'll come back and just go through the comments quickly, and then we can get out of here. So, okay, comments. And tomorrow I will be doing the Q&A session. Tomorrow I got the day off. I don't have to go into the office. So I will at some time, probably mid-morning or sometime tomorrow, I won't say when I'm up for it. I've got I've got to spend a day on the computer and emails and bits and pieces. So sometime I'll get in and answer all your questions on the Q&A from some days ago. We were talking to the team today. There's only 6 of us here running the race, which is quite interesting. And we're all busy. But it's all good. We're having as much fun as the entrants are, I've got to tell you. So, Alligator and Ted Ryman, it's working. Thank you, Ted. Yep. John Russell, hi. Yes, we watch you. Fantastic. Claim Blackmore, Caroline, and great, it's working. Thank you, everybody. It's all working. Oh, that's good. Sound and pictures. Geez, never cease to amaze me. And Rob's adjustment to get us on YouTube straight away is there. So that's good. Oh, Ada's watching as well. Some interesting weather coming up, sure is. Looks good for the majority of the fleet, for sure. In fact, I didn't give you an exploded view backwards, but there's no big winds anywhere along the bottom there as well, which is good. Margaret's always got interesting comments talking about taking care of the boat. Which one of the legs is the most demanding on the boat? It's quite interesting. I think the first one can be because it's settling the boat down. You learn a lot from the boat, and I was quite surprised to see that I was getting little snippets and little hints. There's quite a bit of water been coming into translated, leaking hatches and leaking bits and so on. So that was a surprise. But I think I don't know. It varies, but I will say, from all the time I've been following around the world races and stuff, and doing one of my own and things, the next leg is without question, and this surprises a lot of people, the toughest leg of the race. It's going to be the coldest, and it's going to be the toughest. It always is. There's a convergence of 3 different weather systems, and it's really brutal. Everyone thinks it's Cape Horn. In my personal opinion, it's not. It's actually the next leg. So watch this space, and that then puts demands on the boat. But there's a longer stopover in Cape Town to allow everyone to prepare their boats before Cape Horn. So anyway, Sue, I watched some old videos of the Whitbread where the first stop was Uruguay. What are the pros and cons of stopping in South Africa first versus Cape Town? Well, there's different reasons why some events, previous Whitbread races and Volvo races, didn't come to Cape Town. There was some social and political instability at times, which deflected the fleet. They really weren't in a position to stop in Cape Town. I know in our position, when we were planning this, we had to wait for a year or so before we could actually get in here, because there was conflict with another event, and we were looking at all options. And there's you can do a stopover you go straight around Cape of Good Hope and pick an island up there, Reunion or Mauritius or whatever. You could do that, and others will go to Uruguay, and then you could bypass Cape Town and go all the way to Fremantle or something in Australia if you did that. But we're very happy to be here in Cape Town, and we've been made pretty welcome. So it's pretty cool. And normally, the whole ethos of the original Whitbread races was to follow the clipper ships. And the clipper ships, well, fair enough, they actually sailed down the east coast of South America, and they would stop off somewhere there to get fresh food, fruit and bits and pieces for the crew, going back hundreds and hundreds of years. And then they'd make the trip across the bottom at 40 degrees south, and they would come up to Cape Town. It's just Francis Drake did that, I think. And, before the fleet came on, so let's have one last bowl. So, yeah, it's traditional to stop in Cape Town, and it's, great place, incredibly spectacular. It's really a beautiful place. So, okay, can't wait to hear about Outlaw. Yep, it's going to be quite fun. If that works for them, that will really set the cat among the pigeons for the future. What waves would Outlaw be experiencing right now? That was about 15 to 20. They'd be getting about 2 to 2.5, maybe, something like that. Quite mild conditions. Going to get a bit colder when it comes down. We're on the waterfront here, and you can really tell if the wind kicks in from the south and stuff, it gets cold real quick. But when it's coming off the land, it's very mild. How is Godspeed ahead of Explorer on the tracker? Obviously, a glitch. There's something there. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. So don't believe it. And occasionally we get a glitch, and it usually sorts itself within about 24 hours. So sorry about that, but it's a good program, but it does have some issues in there. Smooth sailing for Outlaw sure is. Thanks, Mandy. Of course, we don't have anything better to do. Right, good. Okay, so can Outlaw see the weather forecast like we can? Oh, no way. They're only getting forecasts off their radio or their weather facts. I don't think there's any weather facts over there in Africa. But right now, 550 miles, yes, they should be getting a strong signal from Cape Town radio doing voice forecasts for area, or the high seas area there, and getting a bit. But you can see that they're sort of in a trade wind. They're sort of in a constant trade wind. So it's not so much what can they expect in the changing weather as to how strong it's going to blow, and it usually just varies a little bit. The guys down south, like Tapio, heading down there, their barometer and barograph is going up and down like a yo-yo. Every time you get the fronts coming, you got a dropping barometer, it'll be northwest, and then bang, southwesterly comes through in a big hit, and the barometer will start going up again. So you're really using your barometer like you have no idea compared to the Atlantic. There's very little pressure gradient, and there's going to be a whole new set of education for many of the people in the fleet. Very few of them have been into the Southern Ocean, and they're going to experience some fantastic things. How impressed have you been with Maiden? Very impressed. Fun seeing them come in today. The main thing about Maiden is where the crew came from and who they are. Tracy's efforts there are all pretty good, blah, blah, blah. And reliving the history, pretty good, blah, blah, blah. But when you get to hear the story of where some of these girls are coming from, it's crazy. It really is crazy. I've got some favourites there. And we'll probably talk to them. Ada and I have been pretty busy doing stuff. We're looking forward to doing the onboard videos and the photo galleries and interviewing some of them a bit more personally. See, they'll be ready to open up, I think. But there's some amazing stories on the Maiden crew. And then you look at them. There's the girl, I forget her name now, the one from Antigua. Really tall. We met her first at a press conference in the MDL Marina in Southampton, months or so before the start of the race. And it was like, whoa. And I knew the Sailing Academy in Antigua. We'd spent time there with our Mini Globe race, the Transat. And that's a great organisation. And then to see her come from that and be doing this, and to see the spark in her eye when she gets to Cape Town, because they're actually doing it now. You do feel relaxed that you've cracked that first leg. It takes a bit of the heebie-jeebies out of it, and you think, hey, we're bloody OGR sailors now. We're on our way around the world. So there's a lot of mixed emotions going. But just to focus again on the people, they've all got incredible stories, and they're all doing amazing things. So yeah, it's fantastic, and it makes the whole team feel very good about what we're all creating. And I say that what the entrants are creating, what all the followers are creating, and what we're putting together as an event, it's fantastic. And we just absolutely love the African dances as well. So, okay, that's it. I've been waffling on way too long. So we'll see you tomorrow night. And thanks for following. And enjoy the closing in of Outlaw. That's going to be very interesting. See you later.